Hello, everyone. This is the first episode of Rejects Unscripted. I'm your host, Hubert.
And I'm also your host, Anders Taylor.
Oh, nice way to use your last name, prick.
Yeah, sorry, I like to be professional.
Yeah, well, I'm not giving people the courtesy of fucking sending semen to my mailbox.
See, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you mention that, then it will happen.
Yeah, that's what they all say. Um, this is something that we're trying out, and it's going to be a pretty frequently. I'm trying to shoot for weekly, semi-weekly podcast type style of recording that we're trying to do. Um, this one in particular is about nostalgia. It's the first episode, so things are a bit rough. And the reason it's called Unscripted is because we think of a topic, and Andres and I will just talk about it for X amount of minutes, 30 minutes to an hour probably. Um, each topic could vary. We could talk about nostalgia for 15 minutes, and then we could talk about, like, I don't know, anything else that's going on with the current media for another 15, and then explain how that loops back to our nostalgia. But the big key point here is nostalgia. And I
Amen to that.
Yeah, and I think that the one that I want to do next week is horror games and how that's a very, very tough crowd to reach and please. And yeah, that's a whole different one. And then somebody wanted me to talk about the negatives of Warhammer eventually, like how there's such a big negative stigma to it. And yeah, so we got a few lined up. Right now, the plan is to just get this up and running. And yeah, we're going to be recording these late at night because Anj and I hate each other. And, I don't need sleep, but also because the fact that, well, frankly, we have a lot of background noise except for like at 11 p.m.
Yeah, really, that's why we don't post too many videos, just mostly audio quality. A lot of us are living in at least partner situations, so
Yeah,
getting free time is a blessing.
exactly what I was thinking. Um, and then something that I wanted to start off doing, uh, weekly drink. This week I am drinking a Moscow Mule. It is quite refreshing.
Feel
So,
free to tell us what that is.
it is vodka mixed with ginger beer, a little bit of lime juice, and then as a special ingredient, I put an orange triple sec at the top, just
God.
to give it a little bit of sweetness, even though it's already pretty sweet. So,
Hubert's your Appletini guy.
yes, I really love my mixed drinks. I enjoy very hard liquor once in a while. You give me a Manhattan old fashioned, I'll happily drink those. But if it's sweet or sour, I prefer those. All right, so nostalgia. We actually talked about this a little bit earlier with others.
Yeah, we had gotten started on it
Yeah.
without actually diving too far in. Like the first few sentences we go in, we're already arguing about Oblivion.
Yes, that was because Anders loves Oblivion, and
Yeah, it's within my like top three games of all time.
it is I enjoyed it, but I definitely it's one of those games where it's like I could go back and play it, but it's like I feel like I want to go play Fallout or Skyrim.
A more advanced game
Yeah. I,
because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here. You feel like, obviously for its time it was good, but now that there's better things out there, there's no point in playing it. Am I getting that right?
yeah. So the thing about that is that it 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 has a. And I started talking about the combat system, how Bethesda, with their older games, has a very weighted feel of their combat system. It feels very floatless. Same with Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Morrowind. Oh god, Morrowind especially. You watch
Oh
any
yeah,
gameplay videos of that, and just people are swinging swords like they're nothing.
right. It's so rigid.
Yeah, and obviously at the time they did what they could, and you look at Skyrim and it feels nice and responsive. You look at Fallout 4, and even though it wasn't the greatest game out there, which we'll probably talk about at some point, uh, it had really decent gunplay. It was actually a good shooter, but you think back on something like Oblivion, and let's say you haven't played it in like 6 to 8 months. Now you're like, oh man, I kind of miss it. I could just go remod it, reinstall it, and then you're in the game. Like, it draws you in. You're like, oh man, this feels great. But I feel as soon as the first moment that you have to get into a serious fight, like, not fighting sewer rats with your fists or anything like that, but like a fight where you can lose, it feels, you just immediately get thrown out of it. Because it's like, all right, how do I cheat this game to more easily just win these fights?
And that's kind of what we had opened up with earlier. And that's something I actually give some thought about, because I recently had modded my Oblivion to hell, and to the point where I
Literally.
like monster mods, and I can't walk out of the city gates when I'm starting for the first like it's like 30 levels without getting slaughtered.
Oh,
And
jeez.
how I acquired my first piece of proper, extremely powerful gear was by cheesing a fight. A guy was fighting me in a place called Aeronook. It's like a modded place, I think. But it's like this ancient alien ruin. And what happens there is these guys who have reflect spell, reflect damage, and everything, robes, come after you. And I couldn't do anything to the guy. Like, he was just invulnerable to everything I threw at him. Just like smidgens of damage. But I kept going and going, and eventually I lead him out to this lake that's right outside of Aeronook, the place, and he gets caught between in the lake on a rock, and I realize if I keep going in between the rock on both sides of this rock, he never comes out of the water. He's stuck. He'll just keep chasing me through it, and he can't hit me back. Now I'm still gonna hurt myself because I'm attacking him. He's got all this reflect armor, but I can do it. And so, of course, the logical thing to do in that scenario is to, for literal game days, this fight went on with me fighting this guy, just throwing spells at him, hitting him every now and then, screaming as he swings his sword at me and almost getting hit myself. And healing spell, then throw fireball, slice, healing spell. And for little game days, it took me to finally kill him. And I got him. I got his armor, and immediately I was the power curve just went way up for me. Like, I was really strong, could actually compete. It felt like I earned it, but I didn't really earn it. I played the game so he couldn't hit me back. I was just patient. It wasn't a proper fight.
That story reminds me of like one of those Mafia City ads, just like level 1 hitman, and it just like does one thing, level 55 boss.
The virgin hero versus the Chad alien throat ripper killer of ages.
Exactly. No, I feel very similar when it comes to New Vegas. As you know, I have an amazing time in New Vegas. I still go back to it. I built this brand new computer, the one that I'm recording this on. Literally several $1,000s of hardware, brand new graphics card, top of the line CPU, 32 gigabytes of RAM, everything. It's amazing. First thing I did, installed about 80 mods and played New Vegas. Literally did not like go to buy any new games to like test out everything. It's just like, man, you know what I haven't played in a while? New Vegas. And I remember getting so much shit for it, because, and rightfully so, because New Vegas is a great game, but it's like, you
test the limits.
Yeah, exactly. Which thankfully it runs perfectly. I just have to replace one component, which I've been very lazy about.
And to get sidetracked for like just a moment, I feel like that represents us as like gamers. We just play for fun.
Yeah.
And whatever we feel fun, we'll just go to. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, if we liked it, we'll go to it. Which is also kind of what invokes this discussion, like just looking back at nostalgia.
Yeah.
And is this really fun anymore?
And that's the thing, because you do go back and, you spent literal game days fighting that one dude. And to you, even though it might have taken you out of the game, it was fun. And, then afterwards the power curve went down and it was fun. Like, if I go to New Vegas and I start off at level 1, I usually get my shit kicked until about level 15, level 20. But then I started pulling the ye old sneak tactic of crouch, Car 98K, vast headshot, long range sniping, and it's just like, because it's like, I know that if I get into a gunfight, like a fair gunfight, I'm probably not making out of that gunfight alive, especially with mods.
Yeah.
Oh man, and it doesn't take me out necessarily for that. The only time that it takes me out is if I get stuck in a very bad save.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. And then it just gets irritating.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, now I have to backtrack a bit. Maybe even enter a console command or something like that to just get out of it. It's just annoying. And I know we're talking about Bethesda games a bit more, but there's also other games out there that you like look back and you play, and you might remember them as super fun or super awful, and you're just like, hey, you know what, I never gave this a proper try. Usually it's the first one. You're like, if a game's shit, you're not gonna go back to it 15 years later, and go like, maybe I actually didn't, do this. No, if you think that a game was bad that back then, you're probably gonna be headstrong about not playing it again.
Yeah, there's very, very rare circumstances, and I don't think I can tell you what those are because I can't seem to think of any game that kind of resurrected in my mind because you don't go back to it like
No,
you're
you
saying.
don't. Uh, and I've had this discussion. I am a huge Kingdom Hearts fan. It is one of my favorite game series out there. But talking with friends who are equally as big of fans as I am, if
It's hard to do.
yeah, I know. And like they were like, "Did you ever go back and like play them after you left your childhood?" And I was like, "No, I don't think I have." So I bought the games. I had PS2. I just started playing through them again, and I'm like, "Wow, you know, this is fun. Like it's really great combat system, but the story is shit." And it's really hard to ignore the some of the flaws now that I'm older. Like I think back to it in my childhood, I just have rose tinted glasses, and it's fantastic, and I was like, oh man, this is great. Like I saw no flaws, and because at the time every game looked like that, every game played like that. And,
Right.
I jumped. Came out like 2000s. It came out early 2000s, and then I jumped 10, 15 plus years, and now I'm just like, ooh, okay, this is rough, but we'll get through this together. And I still had a fun time. It took me a bit longer than normal actually to beat it because I was like, okay, I'm having fun with this, but I want to just take my time with it and not like actually just rush through everything.
Yeah.
So that's where I stood on the matter. And
So once you paid attention to it more,
yes, once you start paying attention to games, it can become very I don't want to say underwhelming, but once you go back to those older games that you probably had a very very fond connection with, you start noticing the flaws a bit more. And
unfortunately.
game companies, and this is, I'm gonna do a little bit of transition. Game companies themselves, they kind of milk on the nostalgia.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite examples, I was thinking about this earlier, is Ubisoft with the Tom Clancy series. Cause you think back to the older Tom Clancy titles, the ones that everyone loved. For us particularly, Vegas 2.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was the first PC game we all played together. We loved that game. We've put so many hours into it, so many hours of Terrorist Hunt. And when
Oh
Siege
my
was
god, yeah, that was the best.
announced, we were so happy. But then it
Right,
came out.
because
Yeah.
yeah.
And,
Sorry, we keep interrupting each other.
no, it's okay. I was just gonna say it was completely different. And although we enjoy Siege, like I don't play it as much as I know you do and others too. It's like, man, I'm just banking on that nostalgia. Like, oh man, the guns, they still feel so good, but it's like, oh man, it's like, and it goes with the Ghost Recon games as well. You slap that Tom Clancy Ghost Recon thing, everybody thinks back to Future Soldier 2, or whatever it
Yeah.
was, where like you're in the future and you're hunting down people in third world countries. As a,
So let's make some context here. We're hunting down people in third world countries.
Yeah, they have AKs, you have stealth suits and drones.
Is this for fun or for freedom?
Yes.
Oh no.
So, yeah, there's that.
Yeah, with Siege, I think because I remember, because we were still playing. We haven't revisited Vegas 2 in quite some time, actually,
No.
because we just have so many games to play now, and I would love to, but and that's the thing. That game still like it caps like I love that game still. Like if we played Terrorist Hunter versus, um, I would definitely I know I would have fun. But with that, see, I remember because there was no Terrorist Hunt and Ghost Recon Future Soldier and whatnot. And like past Vegas 2, I can't really remember any games that had the same feel as that. And when Siege was announced, we looked for Terrorist Hunt. We looked for the other things that we found, like how good was the PvP. And we saw it was different, but our main thing, I remember the main thing we were looking for, Terrorist Hunt. Oh my God, Anders, this has got Terrorist Hunt. I was like, oh no way. We looked at it, and yeah, and I'm not dissing Siege in any way. It's a great game in its own right, but I don't know. It's just not Vegas 2.
Yeah.
Um, they're different games.
I think one of the best examples for this would actually be Russian Badger. He did not enjoy. He did not enjoy. Sorry.
Siege.
Yeah, no, he didn't enjoy Siege at first. Now he's a full-time Siege YouTuber.
Oh.
That's his thing. He loves Siege. But he made a Rainbow Six Vegas 2 video. And he's like, why the hell would I play Siege when this is so much better? And this is back when he was playing a lot more Battlefield and stuff like that. He's one of the best Siege YouTubers out there. I love his content. Kyle loves his content too. He's fantastic, amazing YouTuber. But he really jumped on this old bandwagon, just like, it's not the same game. And, in some rights, it's actually not even fair to compare the two because they're two drastically different games.
They are, yeah. I mean, like the game focuses a lot on the terrain destruction aspect of it.
Right, so that was the big thing.
Yeah, and that's what makes it a pretty distinct from a lot of other shooters, most other shooters. And it still keeps Tom Clancy elements, but they don't have the same customization. It's a lot more rigid because of the class. Like I call them, I know operators. I'm just gonna call them classes.
Yeah.
The class system, and it's the defenders and attackers and whatnot. You have clear objectives every time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no straight up deathmatch. There's no there's Terrorist Hunt, but it's still, even though it's Terrorist Hunt, you're still doing objectives in that, right? You're not just clearing it out. There's no hiding behind walls or blind firing or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's different.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't think there's been a game like Siege, Vegas Siege. Sorry, Vegas 2.
Yeah.
Rainbow Six Vegas 2 for since then, yeah.
It's
not that I know of.
Yeah. I think Ghost Recon, not Wildland. I think it's Wildlands. The ones that came out before Breakpoint. The one that, the good one. I know Breakpoint is getting a lot of shit.
Breakpoint's getting a lot of flack right now. I don't know much about it personally, but I've seen a lot of criticisms.
Yeah. But yeah, it's something. And with and that also comes down to another thing for nostalgia is you'll get a lot of people that hop to those older games, see Vegas 2, Kingdom Hearts and stuff like that, and they'll remember them so fondly because they're like, back then we didn't have day one patch, we didn't have all this extra stuff added on and all this stuff, and it's like, once we got the game, we got the complete game. And I agree with that sentiment. I have very much so agree that some of the modern systems is flawed. Battlefield 5.
We can make a video about that game because we wanted so bad to be. We wanted it so bad to be good. But yeah, that should be for something else. Actually, I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, but yeah. So I think this boils down to, because we talked about it. Like, I don't want to say Oblivion's a bad nostalgic game, but there's definitely flaws. I'll just say bad nostalgic is good nostalgic. I think we can lump, in terms of quote unquote bad, Oblivion and Kingdom Hearts to good. Bad meaning not that it's a bad game. Like I said, Oblivion's one of my top 3 favorites of all time. That I can remember it like I'm going in there, I'm with my sword and my shield. I'm fighting a bear epically. You get into a game and you walk up to bear, slice, 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 slice. Bear is dead. You win.
Yeah.
Or but and I think the problem with that is its rigidity. Because you could have your gun, yours. Yeah, that's yeah. I'm thinking of Fallout now. You can have your sword, your shield, and you
My
have a
gun.
spell on you at all times.
Right.
And that's the way to play. That's you can't have two swords. You don't have one arm dedicated to magic. And when I first played Skyrim, I was disappointed. Like, oh, I can't magic a sword. But I get it. It changes up the different ways you play. It makes for a distinctly different play style. And when it comes to Rainbow Six Vegas too, uh, you get something like it's still the same game, but there's a lot of ways to fight, a lot of ways to approach a terrorist hunt. The PvP is interesting. You have a lot of loadouts, you have a lot of customization, a lot of guns. There's a lot that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
and that's something that I think modern games have the benefit of is we reached a curve in the early 2012 2013 where people just started adding more and more, and you can do more in games.
Yeah, and that's a kind of a double thing because they're doing like it is I feel like partially holding back content so that a game can live on for longer as you release it later. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that is genuinely being released later on a game because every game dev nowadays wants their game to extend. I think actually I'm thinking about it. Games in the past, they were released, they had their time, and then they were done.
Yep.
You didn't come back to it. You know what I mean? Like once it was over, it was over.
Yeah, unless you had those hardcore communities like Battlefront 1 and 2 and some of the other multiplayer games of the olden days.
Mm-hmm. And that really only occurred on exceptional games. I know your first mention was Battlefront 2. Like that game's still good today.
Yeah, no, like those servers are back on, and
2005, just to be clear for everybody.
Yeah, and it comes down to it that and Jim Sterling, great YouTuber, great critic, he throws out the term live service a lot. Like a lot of companies want their games to be live service, which is fair, because companies do want their games to be live service. They want their games to continuously pull in money, to continuously do all this extra stuff. Every game now needs to reach a certain margin, and that was especially toxic back in the 2013 2014s, because there were games where if a game did not sell a certain amount of copies, and this was exceptional with Square Enix, I believe Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, they all had to live up to a particular standard. And if they didn't reach that standard, then there was no guarantee of the future of the game.
Yeah.
And it was just, and it wasn't something as simple as like, okay, this game just has to make back what we put into it. It's like, no, this game has to literally make back like $1 million or $2 million over.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just lose right now. Yeah.
Huh?
Oh, I'm playing Magic.
Oh.
I did not have a good hand. Yeah, I had a very poor keep.
Nice.
But it was just, it's one of those things where nostalgia carries people through certain times. And I think I'm fair to say that, especially for us who grew up in the early 2000s, I could instantly think back on Halo 3. We had those nights where we were at your house and we just played
game
Halo
nights.
3. Yeah, game nights. And then we did Reach and all this stuff, and it was fantastic. And there was nothing wrong with any of that. But it's like it harkens back to a simpler time.
Yeah, a lot more fun time, which makes me think too. Because a simpler time when a lot of this nostalgia stuff, almost any nostalgia is when you're young, not just because you have to be younger for nostalgia, but for the sake of, because you could be nostalgic in your 40s about something in your 25s. I don't know, like, but
Yeah,
when you're younger, you're not paying as much,
attention.
simpler,
Yeah,
and you weren't as smart, you weren't as adept in it. So you don't see as many things, or maybe you weren't playing as many things, so you didn't have anything to compare it to.
mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just the fact that the game itself is new, and games itself are new.
Exactly. And that's how I feel with all of this. Is that we jump back to, thinking about when times were simpler, when we didn't have to, when we weren't hopping on Reddit and we instantly see all this bad news, when we weren't, when we weren't waking up and going, oh man, what's gonna happen today? Like, what am I gonna see in the news? And it just brings back a simpler, more nostalgic time,
Yeah,
and it's fantastic that it does. Um, but it's also like it's good to move on, if that makes sense. And it's good to fondly remember the past. And I know people always say like, "Oh, you should remember the past. It was there and everything like that." But there are also certain points where people are like, "All right, you really need to like forget the past because if you don't, you're just gonna fall into this shitty habit of, okay, I remember the past, and why can't we go back to this? Why
yeah,
can't we go back to games being fully released? Why can't we go back to this and all this other stuff?" Despite a lot of flaws back
oh
then.
yeah, absolutely. And I think I'll go like, and if you talk about life in general, human life, every you could take any 30-year span and compare it to the last 30-year span, and the
Uh huh.
next 30-year span will be better.
Yes.
The newer one will be better, just for humanity in general.
Yes.
And on a smaller scale, that applies to a lot of other things, games being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just because not just advancement in technology with graphics, not something not just that simple, but more programming. More what they can do. They use more computer resources. They have more resources to be able to do this.
Yes.
So it's going to be better.
Right. It always will be. Uh, but we're also living in an age where it's it's very, how do I say this? It's very easy to get news, and when you have the ability to hop on Twitter, when you have the ability to hop on Facebook, and see like, okay, what's happening now, you
Yeah,
know, then that is when uh that is when you start just remembering all this old stuff. Like, oh man, back when I was younger, like this is what was happening. This is everything that was going on. Like, it didn't matter that this was happening. It just mattered that this was going on. It,
hmm
it was a lot more. It was a lot more back then focused on your world. That makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah. Less no, yeah. Less to do. People can be around more because they don't have as much to do.
Yeah.
And maybe it's more like the people you played with, and not to get all,
Hmm.
you know, maybe it was the friends you made along the way.
Stuff like that.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. No, but really though, like, yeah, maybe it was just like hanging out with the guys on those game nights, and just chatting. 'Cause, what we say being more important than what we play is guiding what we say, but what we say is hilarious or
Yeah.
interesting.
And
That's right, everybody, we're hilarious.
you were hilarious, and you will quote this entire podcast. Um, and it's even more. Uh, and this is something else. We've been playing Warhammer for about 10 years,
Yeah, jeez, yeah,
and it's something where Kyle and I fell on the nostalgia train, but I definitely feel like other people do as well. So
hmm
Kyle and I, we used to play fantasy back when it was actually fantasy
right.
and not Age of Sigmar. And as soon as we never saw how bad of state fantasy was actually in. We were just
Yeah.
like, okay, knights, all this other stuff. And after talking to the local Games Workshop owner, Ben, he had to he put everything in perspective. He's like, well, you have to remember that this is what was going on and how bad things were, and this was and all this stuff. And then thinking about it and how 7th edition became this bloated corpse like the last edition of Fantasy was. So Fantasy goes away. They get rid of it. They bring back the End Times, the Age of Sigmar. Kyle and I are like, we don't want to do Age of Sigmar. This is horseshit.
Right. Oh no, I remember the rants. Age of Sigmar. No, I remember all the rants about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we sold our fantasy armies. And, I don't regret it because I got a lot of Eldar. I got all my 40k up. I was so happy for that. But then, honest to God, Kyle got a chance to play that. And he went, okay, let's see what this is. And he loved it. He instantly fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And then he convinced me, he's like, hey, you should give this a try. And then I instantly fell in love with it.
Yeah, you guys made a pretty good 180.
It was, we didn't see what GW was doing, because we were so upset. Yeah, we were so upset that the old ways were gone, that we didn't see how fast, how great the new ways were, how simpler it was. And I think that it goes a very similar matter with 8th edition 40k. How simple it is.
Well, I think it was easy to see with 40k because it wasn't a total rework. Yeah. I mean, it was a rework, but it wasn't as violent, I should say, as from Fantasy Day Age of Sigmar was.
Yeah, but
so you could see pretty clearly the change.
But they also scrapped a lot of systems.
Oh yeah. It definitely was an overhaul, but it wasn't a total purge.
Yeah. No, it was just it was a complete 180, and it wasn't a bad 180. That's the best part about all this. It's it was for the betterment. And some people will go back oh man, I remember when fantasy was awful. I remember when it was great. I remember when 40k I played 2nd, 3rd edition. 3rd edition was the best. 4th edition was the best. We started 5th edition. We loved 5th edition.
Yeah.
That. The only thing we didn't like about 5th edition was vehicles.
Right, those are weird.
Yeah. We had very, very strong opinions on vehicles. And, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. But, yeah, I mean, it's kind of backtracking, but going back to what we were saying with the progress thing.
Yeah.
How, things will always get better.
Yes.
What am I trying to say? Take the most legendary old games, the best of the old games.
Oh, yeah.
Like Battlefront 2, or our beloved Vegas 2. Take those. Battlefront 2 2005. Thank you very much. Copyright TM. And apply some new game mechanics to it. Will it make it a better game? I think so. I mean, obviously it depends on the mechanics you choose, but you would be hard pressed to find something that's relatively new that wouldn't make the game better in some way.
Of course.
Yeah, because you feel how well-rounded those games are. How I'm not talking about expansions to the game because expansion. I'm talking about give me a new mechanic or not just expanding on customization and whatnot. That stuff's kind of a given. Obviously, if you expand on the game, it's going to be better. Something entirely new. And there's something out there. Things have changed.
Things have changed, and although there are very particular outliers of, and it seems extremely bad because all we hear is the outliers and
the uproar.
Yes, especially when companies do very shitty things loot boxes, NBA 2K20 just literally being a gambling simulator.
Literally being 2K19.
Yeah.
I saw a post where the symbol for like the taskbar symbol for 2K920 actually read 2K19.
Yes, that was a
So
real thing. That was
yeah,
an action. Oh, it was, and a lot of it was just the fact that they were just taking advantage of nostalgia and people playing these games. They took care of their fan base. They're just grabbing them because they're like, hey, people will buy this. Like, even if it is a very shitty thing, we're gonna make
yeah.
our money back.
Well, yeah, and it's an interesting concept too because these people do make money off that because of what's called whales.
Yes.
Yeah, and for those of you unfamiliar with that, it's that even if the vast majority of your players don't buy anything or they buy very little, there will be a select few people who spend a ton of money on it, and that'll make up for the cost on itself.
Mm.
And those
That
people
is
are
a
whales.
that is a whole nother topic that we can get into. That is at least an hour discussion, especially with what Magic the Gathering is pulling right now with these quote unquote collector editions
Oh,
that they've been pulling for the last couple sets, and how people are very upset, including some famous YouTubers like Tolarian Community College, bringing up the fact that they're just going to keep milking these people, these whales, and they're just going to keep increasing the price. Right now, this one's $450, but the next one's going to be $750.
oh.
And he just put out $750. It might not actually be $750. We'll
Okay,
have to
yeah.
see. But where is the ceiling on that? So,
Right.
and how far does good fate take you nowadays? how far can we trust a company? You know, Obviously in this day and age, it's very difficult, and nostalgia rears its head a lot because oh, perfect example actually. I just thought of this. Shenmue 3. Oh, do you know the whole story behind this?
I don't think I've heard of that word ever.
Okay. Okay. Let's let's do a quick 5-minute review about the drama of Shenmue 3. Shenmue 1 and 2 were PS2 games that actually did really damn well. People love them. So, a few years back, they announced Shenmue 3. And it was gonna. And they announced it at a PlayStation press conference. Came with a caveat: it needed to be kickstarted. Instantly made its goal. Then, I think it was like a year or two later, developers got into bed with a publisher. So now they've taken fan money, but they've also taken publisher money.
Okay, so meaning they have to follow their rules now?
Well, but also the fact that what the shit? Why did we kickstart this then? If you guys are
Oh,
just
right,
gonna,
yeah.
if you guys are just gonna take a publisher's money, but then, they signed on, and this was revealed like at E3. They signed on an Epic deal. So the game's been available on Steam, like to pre-order for a long time, and then they signed an Epic deal.
No, exclusive?
Yep.
So is this like, oh god, what's that? Metro. Is this a Metro situation?
Yes.
Oh boy.
So people were pissed because now like, how far can the good fate take them? Some people just want to play this game. Yeah. Some people just want to play this game, and others are just like, I've had this for like, I've wanted to play on Steam. Oh, speaking of NBA 2K19, your dad's hopping.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
He actually really likes it.
No, I'm sure he does, especially like, once you get towards the end of the life cycle of the game and all the BS is slowly stripped away, and yeah.
Yeah, well, he's only interested in the
career.
Yeah, career mode, which is where they really actually did improve. So
Yeah.
Why not?
So
He doesn't get much player at all.
And then there was like a whole controversy about getting, will you get an Epic key? Can I still get my Steam key? Can I get a refund? I haven't followed up with that. I don't know if you can get. I think you could get a refund for a limited time. I don't think you can get it on Steam. And it was the second to last biggest Epic exclusive controversy. The first one being, I think, Borderlands, because people were very upset that was coming out on Epic Store. But we can we can discuss the Epic Game Store in detail, but that is a dead horse that we can beat on
Right.
that everyone else has already jumped on. But
Oh yeah, everybody already knows about Epic.
yeah, so and it's just great because it's also forced Steam's hand to like now include it in their contract. Just like, hey, if you show that your game's gonna come out on the Steam place, can't make an exclusivity deal with somebody else because we could force legal action. So developers are now kind of like, do I take the Epic deal and stuff like that? And oh my god, then it also goes on to how some publishers can have both Epic and Steam, and so how Epic's bullying the smaller publishers. Okay, yeah, no, that's a whole different thing. But yeah, Shenmue 3 nostalgia. It did just the company just took way too much advantage of its fans, and now fans are just tired of it.
Well, like you said, they pushed too far. How much can it take you?
Exactly. I'm trying to think of other cases of nostalgia gone wrong. I'm trying to think of cases of nostalgia gone right and cases of nostalgia gone wrong. Jeez.
It's easy to think of the nostalgia gone wrong, and that kind of leads into why you see so much negativity and anything going wrong. Why see so much negativity? It's easy to get on board the outrage.
Right.
And
right.
As a matter of fact, I think I said this a while ago, and I'll say it again, because I hate it, but it's true. I hate the overuse of the word like yada yada culture. Like the word culture, but we're in a era of outrage culture, and that could be either with PC stuff or somebody doing something crappy, or maybe not exactly getting what they deserve, and stuff with games too. So there's a lot of that. It's super easy to hear about that.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot easier to get on the internet, and no matter if you think you're right or you're wrong, or you think something is bullshit or something is not, you can always find something to back your opinion.
Yes, anywhere.
Yes,
you'll find it there. Oh god, there was this great Jim Jeffries bit where it's crude, but it gets the message across. Where a man has sex with a pig.
Yes.
And afterwards he goes, "Oh god, gee, maybe I shouldn't have done that." And but nowadays he could go online and find a forum of people who have sex with pigs.
And
like,
oh,
hey, yeah, exactly. Maybe I'm not so bad. But yeah, so I thought it was pretty effective in describing.
No, it really is. Just a good one is, oh man, I don't want to throw out episode 1. Anders are already about to get firebombed. Anti-vaxxers.
Here we go.
We the internet has very strong opinions on it, but there is a very vocal minority who is very, very content with not following. But yeah, you could generally find your own opinion online, and it's usually backed up. Like if I wanted to hop online right now and be like, why I don't think the certain magic cards should be banned, I could probably find a couple forums saying, hey, yeah, you know what, this one's actually not so bad. But let's say if I want to say, man, I think that this card should be banned, I could probably find a few more forums saying, hey, you know what, I agree with you that this should be banned. And if anything, I can always start a topic of conversation about it.
Yeah. And it's so easy to confirm your own opinion.
Yes.
That's the problem, because nobody's going to go look. Sorry, most people aren't going to go looking for criticism, and the people who aren't going to go look for criticism, as opposed to people who are, the people who aren't going to go look for criticism are the people who need criticism the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the people who need a second view of something. But yeah, no, it's super easy to confirm what you already believe, and it's not good.
No, it isn't. But that is all. Again, we keep talking about how this is a whole other discussion, because we really could just rant about, oh man, and we're really trying to keep this to video games and stuff like that.
Yeah, video tabletop games. Nostalgia is supposed to be the subject here.
Yes, it's insane how and I'll transition with this, but it's also insane how certain companies are are already on a hill. I'll describe it like this: they're already on a hill with people ready to take aim and throw stones.
Yeah.
EA, Activision, Blizzard, they're all on this. They're all on this hill, and it's just like people are so ready to jump the gun. And I will admit I have also been part of this group of people who are just ready to just jump on games for the first mistake that they make.
Yeah, it's an easy trap to fall into.
No, it is. Borderlands 3, I was one of those people because I did not like the fact it was Epic exclusive. Now, I don't like 2K games that much either. Randy Pitchford is a shithead. And I hope that somehow this makes its way to 2K, and then, he just overhears, he's a shithead.
He needs to hear this, guys. I don't know who this is, but he needs to hear
it. Well, he's
actually don't know.
Yeah, he's a bad person. He was the person who, CEO of 2K, but he was the one who hyped up Aliens Colonial Marines.
I hate him.
Yeah, I hate him too, Anders. He is absolutely awful. Oh, sorry, G.
And, I think that's a good way to loop it back into nostalgia too, because everybody's thinking about the remake of AVP when they think Aliens Colonial Marines.
Oh yeah, they are.
Yeah, so like that's what they were banking off of, that nostalgia.
Oh my god, yeah. Speaking of nostalgia, if you even Google nostalgia of video games, I have it pulled up right now, you can generally find a good amount of articles. The first one is actually from Kotaku earlier this year, why nostalgia for video games is uniquely powerful. And then the third one down is from 2015, how nostalgia is hurting the future of video games.
Nah.
It's something, it goes back to the opinion thing, where it's like some people think nostalgia is good, some people think nostalgia is bad, some people think certain bits of nostalgia are good, and some people think certain bits of nostalgia are bad. I am of the boat that, again, I think that we all look back at games with rose-tinted glasses, and once we go back to play them, we kind of take them off. We could still enjoy them. Like, I'm not saying every game we go back to play is shit. That is not true at all. We just hop on this bandwagon of, oh man, I remember having so much fun times with this game. And then we just kind of forget about all the bad qualities. Dawn of War Soulstorm. Oh boy, that is a game series. The whole Dawn of War series is, let's not get into that one, but Soulstorm. Oh man, we haven't played Soulstorm in a while. Let's hop on there. Oh man, let's set up against the Dark Eldar and Sisters of Battle AI. Oh my god, we're 2 minutes in and we're dying horribly.
The AI was so brutal.
Please, God, spare us. It's... Oh man. And you tend to block out all those bad things. World of Warcraft Classic just came out. Not too long ago. This is October 13th. I believe it came out sometime in September. I played it for a bit. I really enjoyed my 1 month on it before I hopped back on the Destiny train. Because God fucking damn it, I love Destiny. I know you're playing it right now.
Everybody with you.
Yes, and you're playing it right now, and I can't. Because I don't want my click-clacks to get in the way.
Yep.
Jerk. That's why you're recording next time.
That's fair. Yeah, I'll play Galactic Battlegrounds next time. That's what I was going to play.
Yeah. So, with that whole thing, it's like, everybody remembers Classic for all its nostalgia, and people are like, oh man, I do love Classic. And then one YouTuber, and I think if we remember to, I'll give you the link to the YouTube video and we can put it in there. But he actually did a comparison between the live version and Classic, like what was the difference and all that stuff, like the raids, the big thing about the raids. And he also mentioned Classic is a very slow experience. he and several YouTubers bring this up. A lot of the time you spend in Classic is actually just walking to destinations. It's about the journey to get to 60.
Yeah,
Now,
and I think that's also another great comparison, obviously, because classic new.
yeah,
That what I said earlier about having new game mechanics in older games, because I think the comparison to a actual comparison to WoW Classic to the modern WoW, and in this case it's mounts that make you go faster, place to place.
yeah. I mean, you get mounts in Classic, but you don't get them till level 40,
Mm-hmm.
which is for a lot of players that's a couple days of grind.
Yeah.
And then you at level 60 you need to get a better mount. So it's very bad. Whereas in now you get mounts early. Like super early. I forgot what level you get mounts, but yeah, it's a lot earlier now.
Nah.
With God, what was I gonna say? Yeah, with Classic, it's just so much slower, and the reason that I think people actually like Classic a bit more, and I might be the only one who's saying this, is there's a sense of fulfillment for doing things, and getting to a certain thing. I've talked with Andy about this, and we might just actually have to do a World of Warcraft episode and get Andy on here.
Yeah, well, right.
With Classic and older World of Warcraft, you aren't the hero. You aren't some mystical like dragon killer. You're just a person in a world doing your thing, helping others.
It's pretty refreshing.
Yeah.
Nowadays, at least.
Yeah. With Destiny, you've came on in a weird point. What I mean by that is your introduction is completely different to my introduction.
Yeah.
You are, in New Light, you are considered a new Guardian. You are considered, you're considered a Guardian rising up. Whereas where I started in Destiny, with the campaign and stuff like that, I started off as a hero. The Slayer of Crota. The bringer of, like, this amazing Guardian. Everybody praised me. Everybody knew me. Everybody knew me as, like, this amazing 100% Guardian. Whereas in you literally just popped out of the dirt.
Yeah.
And so, and although eventually, through the progression of the stories, you get to that title as well.
Right.
You slay gods. You do all this amazing stuff. But for you, it's a lot more, well, shit, I just got dropped into a world, and now it's like I have to find my way and become this super powerful, amazing thing. Whereas I was just dropped into the world, and it's like, hey, you are this super powerful, amazing thing. And so, and I think that's also nostalgia, is the fact that you play a game, and a lot of the times you're now like the hero of the realm, or the one to save everyone and stuff like that. But a lot of games back then, with simpler narratives and stuff like that, they often didn't put you in the boots of this amazing hero. They put you in the boots of, I'm this guy doing this thing.
Yeah.
What is my purpose?
You can become a hero.
Yeah. You're in a spaceship. You are to shoot things. That is your purpose.
Work your way up from nothing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is always great. That's some serious gratification there.
Exactly. So how long have we gone? Well, we've been going for about 55 minutes, and I think that I'm kind of topicked out on this one. I don't really think I could add on anymore for this.
Yeah, I think we've covered a lot. I mean, there's always something we're gonna miss, but
Of course.
yeah, no. Otherwise, I think
Topicked out as
that's
well.
a summation, if you will.
I
And
guess
a good point to end.
I guess some good closing notes would also be like, I play Magic as well, so people will always look back at older sets of Magic and be like, oh man, this was the best time to play Magic. This was the best time to play Magic. This is what was going on back then. And it's the thing with that, all that is just that we're in a very weird time with hobbies is that, and I think that this will just have to be our third video, is like how every hobby has a negative connotation to it now, and Warhammer's going to be our big one because that one spiked up recently in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, next week we'll cover horror games, and then the week after that we'll cover hobbies. And I think on that note, this is the end of our first episode of our podcast, Rejects Unscripted. Again, this is your host, Hubert.
I'm Anders. I'm now less formal.
Yep. And, yeah, have a good time.